We are coming into a new season of college football and NFL football.
Yeah, baby.
Starting out, though, if we're going to start with college football, we have to start at the end of last year with our defending national champion, Indiana Hoosiers. And the big question on everybody's mind, obviously Indiana winning last year's national title, do they repeat? Do they come back? Where do they get to again this year? What are your thoughts going in?
Well, I will say I've been, looking into it a little bit. I kind of have to quote Joe Klatt on a couple things. I was watching some of his videos, and I know that, there's mixed opinions on him. Some people love him, some people hate him. People might like him for his commentary, but not his picks, and vice versa. I think he's a pretty reputable source, for the most part. Obviously, certain things he says, I might disagree with. But there was one that I was watching earlier, and he was talking about, just kind of making his, obviously before football even officially starts. Like, we're not even, in the games here yet. But what is his prediction for the playoff? And he was talking about all of the schedules. He was looking at, the Power Four conferences and, who makes those championship games.
Something I actually saw today while I was out. I happened to watch through his playoff predictor today.
Yep.
So I used that somewhat as a basis for some of my thoughts on it, but not all of them.
Yeah. And so I'm going with that is, one of the things he said with Indiana was talking about it. And the good thing for Indiana is they do have a pretty favorable schedule. Everything that I have been seeing is saying that Indiana most likely can and potentially will go undefeated through the regular season again. Maybe at worst they'll have one. I mean, unless they play horribly, they can maybe have 2 losses. But it sounds like one, most likely 0 losses. Yeah. So I think they have that going for them in terms of could they repeat. They have a very favorable schedule. The thing that just is still unknown is, obviously they lost Mendoza and several other players. Will this new roster be able to compete at that same level? Now, I think that Curt Cignetti does a great job. Obviously, we saw it in his first couple of years coming over from JMU. I think he can get his players ready. But again, will they be able to compete in crunch time to really be able to lead this team the way that Fernando and the rest of those senior class did?
So one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot with Indiana, and obviously can they repeat or not is the big question going into this year, is yes, they lost a lot, but what do they have left there? And then what are they working with? So one of the big things in college football that tends to be one of the biggest deciding factors is the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
The O-line and the D-line. Indiana has one of the most veteran O-line and D-line rosters in the country.
It's true.
If you think about like Big Ten media days back to that, the only players they sent were O-line and D-linemen. That's it. It was all their seniors, all their captains, O-line and D-line. Okay. The guys that have been there, that are not drama queens, that know how to get the job done, that know it's all business. That was one of the things that I think stood out to me. Mm-hmm. And I think what some people are forgetting or not necessarily realizing yet is we obviously look at Mendoza now and we see that, great season, Heisman Trophy winner, led the Hoosiers to their championship. But people didn't think Fernando was going to be anything crazy when he transferred to Indiana in the first place.
That's true.
People didn't know what Cignetti's system was, didn't know how Fernando would do. One of the things that Curt Cignetti has been good at in his entire tenure at Indiana has been finding the players that he wants that fit his system. Not necessarily the best, but the guys that fit his system and the guys that he wants to see that'll succeed for what his vision is for Indiana.
Yes.
And, a lot of people aren't talking about it because, Josh Hoover is stepping into pretty big shoes. Josh Hoover, if you look at the numbers and look at, eye test, is a better prospect coming into his year at Indiana than Fernando Mendoza was coming out of Cal. Now, will the leadership and the stalwart, personality be there for them from Josh Hoover? I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to really make that conclusion. Mendoza is one of those where just a class act all the way around.
Yeah.
And just
Mr. LinkedIn himself.
Exactly. Just a good, honest kid. He's ready to do his thing. But is that what Hoover's going to be? We don't know. That'll be yet to see. To answer the question, though, can Indiana repeat? Yes, Indiana absolutely can repeat. Will they is an entirely different story. I don't necessarily know if they will repeat, but I do think this is a team that has the potential to not only go back to the college football playoff, they can win the Big Ten again, get through that schedule. They have tough games. They have Michigan. They have at Michigan's their toughest game on the road. They have USC at home. They have Ohio State at home.
Yep.
Both of those being home games is huge for them.
Yes.
But that also means going into a prospective Big Ten championship and college football playoff, they will be battle tested.
Mm-hmm.
People like to look at their non-conference schedule and say they don't play anybody. True, but they're also playing the second best, or even the first best team in the Big Ten this year, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
That is something to be considered moving forward. But along with Indiana, we do have we're on the road to the national championship coming in 2027. Playoff picks. I got a couple questions here, just a couple rapid fire questions.
Right.
I would say we'll do all the power conferences. So Big 10, Big 12, SEC, ACC. What team do you think will represent each of those conferences going into the college football playoff? Will we see some returns? Will we see some surprises? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think if you're looking at, let's start with the Big Ten.
Okay.
I mean, right off the bat, there are two teams that come to mind for me.
Okay.
And I believe that those are Oregon
Okay.
and Indiana.
Okay.
Now, I could very well see Ohio State.
Yep.
We could even potentially see USC.
Yep.
Technically, we could even see Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to choose 5, those are probably going to be like my 5, I guess.
Sure.
But the most primary 2, and if I have to put it down to just one, it's going to be Oregon.
Absolutely.
That's in my mind. I mean, no disrespect to Indiana. I doubted them severely last year. They're a great team.
100% agree.
But
100%
Oregon they bring so many weapons back. Dan Lanning's an incredible coach. The atmosphere at Autzen Stadium is incredible.
Yes.
They've got a lot of veterans. They were so close last year. I mean, they played so well throughout the year. I just think that they're the obvious pick, at least coming out of the Big Ten.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the Big Ten to me, and I have my top 10 for college, we'll get into that a little bit later, but the Big Ten for me kind of came down to 3 teams for me that could win the Big Ten. Not necessarily contend in the Big Ten, but only 3 teams can really win it. It's Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State.
Yep.
Are the 3 teams that can win it this year. Now, I think when looking at Oregon's schedule, Oregon, avoids Indiana, avoids Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon will and should run the table clean through to the Big Ten championship. The question will be that Indiana and Ohio State, who takes that slot against them in Indianapolis.
Yes.
If I had to lean away, I think I would lean Indiana. And the reason for that is I think they will take that head-to-head matchup with Ohio State since it is at home in Memorial Stadium.
Yes.
Now, if Ohio State were to win that game, I could see Ohio State dropping a game to somebody like a USC that we talked about being in that spot. So that could lead to some weird tiebreaker shenanigans if Indiana doesn't lose any other Big Ten games. Ohio State loses to USC, has that loss, and they lose to Ohio State. It could lead to some weird stuff there.
Yes.
Obviously, that's to be seen. If I had to pick right now a team that I feel the most confident in to win the Big Ten championship, it would probably be Oregon.
Okay.
Just because of all the players that they are returning. Dan Lanning's a great coach down there. Oregon has made it one step farther every single year the past few years into the playoff. This is their year to reach, the finals, championship game, potentially even win the championship.
Yep.
Second, I think, if they do play Indiana is obviously up there. Indiana gets, because it's my team, but they also get the benefit of the doubt of national champions, head coach Kurt Signetti. They have both their coordinators still there, which people are going to pay big money for those guys. And I don't think they're leaving Indiana anytime soon. But that is something to be mindful of moving forward. Yeah.
One other thing I will say, and this is kind of continuing with our Oregon discussion in terms of them potentially running the table or, at least kind of looking at their schedule. And, you look at it, you see different teams that they're playing. You got, Boise State. That's their first game. I think that, even though, I'm not trying to say that Boise State is, the best thing since sliced bread or anything. Sure. I think that at least for a first game, that could give them a little bit of a test, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
A couple weeks later, they're playing at USC.
Yeah.
I know obviously it's not much for them to travel that far since they're already on the West Coast, but that's going to be, a fun game to see there. The one game though, and I think this is really going to be one of the biggest determinations of, is it Oregon that comes out of the Big Ten? Is it Indiana? Is it Ohio State? Who's kind of that one team? It's going to be Saturday, November 7th. Oregon plays at Ohio State.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That is going to be such an amazing game because we saw how close it was in Autzen Stadium last year.
Yes.
we're going to have to see how it goes this year in the horseshoe.
Yes,
that's going to
absolutely
be amazing. And I think that is one of the biggest games for both teams by far.
100%. I think if that's not the biggest game of the Big Ten slate, then it is the game a couple weeks later, Ohio State at Indiana.
Yes.
Those are the two biggest games in the Big Ten. There are some sleeper games in there as well that could impact things. USC has some interesting games in there, but it's, like I think we both kind of come to the conclusion here. There's 3 teams out of the Big Ten. It could possibly be Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. I think that's your top tier of the Big Ten, and then it kind of goes down from there. You get your USC, your Michigan, your Washington in that second tier. Jumping into the ACC, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because I don't have a lot of thoughts on the ACC. This is Miami's conference to lose right now.
Yes.
We saw what Clemson failed last year. They were not great. They've got some things to figure out. I could see them making it to that ACC championship, but I'm actually not going that route with them. I think I think Clemson and then Louisville or SMU are the 2 teams that could ideally make the ACC championship game. Obviously, Louisville and SMU play each other in the coming weeks. That'll be an interesting game to see. But where Clemson goes for the rest of this year, if we are going to talk about them, I think gets determined week 1 against LSU.
Yes.
Where do they go from there? How does that game against Lane Kiffin go? New squad there, obviously in LSU, a new regime. But I think this is Miami's conference to lose. I do think they win the ACC regardless of their opponents. Can the ACC send a second team to the playoff? I don't know about that personally. I don't think they will. And I think you'll see in my rankings that they probably won't because of how the playoff falls. But I think Miami wins that one pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that you're hitting the nail right on the head. I mean, I think that Miami, it is their conference to lose. I think that Miami is kind of your clear number 1.
Yes.
I think I would agree with you. SMU, I think that they're kind of one of those like sleeper dangerous that a lot of people aren't, really thinking about too much.
And what people forget a lot about SMU is they've already made the college football playoff before.
Yes.
This is a team that has been to the 12-team playoff. They have that experience. And their quarterback that was in that playoff game is still here.
Yes.
So they have that veteran experience, somebody with a lot of starts in college for SMU that could lead them a long way. But at Louisville, like we talked about, they have Jeff Brom.
Yes.
It's homeschool. They've played well. They've had 9 wins every single year under Jeff Brom. Is this the year they get over that hump a little bit?
Yeah, I'm with you on both of those. And then with your Clemson pick, I mean, for me, week 1 is the biggest determination. I mean, if they come out, if they can win, that is a huge, huge statement. If they
can
play it close, that was my next point. If they can at least play it close, I will have some big confidence in them. If they get dog walked,
right?
I mean, it's like, sure, you can turn a season around, like you can win out the rest of the time.
Yes,
but it's not going to inspire that confidence that we need to see, especially after last year. Clemson needs that redemption. They need that confidence boost to start off this year. They need, with a jolt of electricity, they need to come out and fight and win, or at least keep it close.
Yes.
Because that's going to be huge. I mean, we saw them. They've been at the top of the mountain.
Yes.
And now they're kind of down at the bottom again, and they're trying to climb back up, and we really need to see that. But yeah, that's going to be
that's what they need. Clemson and LSU. I don't think matchup gets talked about enough because this is almost this could either be a continuation of an era or an end of an era for Clemson, because when we look at infamous coaches and legendary coaches that are at these teams, you look at Clemson initially and you think, how do you get rid of Dabo? How do you get rid of a coach that's brought them so much, that brought them national championships? But at the same time, it's like that Dabo is one of the coaches that is kind of not investing into NIL and the transfer portal as much as I think he should. Yep. With the direction that college football has gone, you can argue how NIL and how the transfer portal have impacted college football. I would argue college football has gotten better. I don't think that NIL and transfer portal are all sorted out. I think there's a lot of issues there.
Yes.
But in terms of the product, the games, the teams, how many teams are good, you'll see it in my top 10 coming up. But I had the top 7, you could put anywhere from 1 to 7. You can order them anywhere.
Yep.
I think after that, you can pick and choose, but the top 7 are pretty much decided. We know who they are. We know what they're going to be. And Clemson, this is Dabo's last shot to really say, hey, we are still here. We can still contend.
Yes.
And can they do it is the real question moving forward.
Because there's so much pressure on him, both to get to the top of the mountain, but also to just have more success.
Yes.
At least make the playoff or at least get close. I mean, if he can have a winning season, and not just, oh, I had, 7 wins. No, like, if you can have 9, 10 wins,
right.
If you can get to the playoff, if you can do these things,
yes,
these, essentially for a big time power program, basic things in a sense,
yeah,
I mean, that would that's what can keep him there and can really continue to give, the boosters and the other supporters and the athletic director and everybody else the confidence that they need in him to, extend his contract on further and to keep him there for, however, who knows how long.
Right. A couple years ago, Dabo was the kind of guy that could coach at Clemson until the day he died.
Yep.
The day he wanted to retire. Now, now you kind of wonder. You start to wonder, does anybody, the only coach, I think, for a very long time that we're going to see coach a school and it's their school till they retire. We're not going to see another Nick Saban for a while.
No.
We're just not.
No.
It's not going to happen. We may not see another Nick Saban ever again.
Yes.
He could have had that job till the day he died, but, like we said, NIL, transfer portal kind of got to him a little bit. I don't think he wanted to deal with that, which is, respected. It's a lot to deal with. Moving forward, though, let's talk about the Big 12. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a whole lot here. I think Texas Tech is the front runner in this conference. Yep. I think even with the whole Brendan Sorsby drama being it, he's not there anymore. He's done. I still think I love their coaching staff. I love what this team has done. They have all the pieces and a very favorable schedule to get to their conference championship, get back to that playoff. I think I kind of have 3 teams, I think, as well that could fit that slot. I think BYU. I like Utah a lot, even without Kyle Whittingham. Utah is always a team that is always there.
Yep.
This is a 7-5, 8-4, 9-win kind of team. And then you have Arizona.
Yep.
I think I'd probably have BYU as my front runner.
Mm-hmm.
Kalani Sitake does a great job out at that school. They've been awesome. I'd love to see them get into the playoff. I don't know how far they go, but I think that'd be really cool for them. But Arizona probably my second pick, and then Utah my third. I don't think Utah's quite going to get there, have enough to do it. And Arizona just has too many tough games on their schedule back to back to really. I think they're going to stumble a couple times somewhere just with how the schedule falls for them.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself. I think Texas Tech is clearly the front runner. I'd put BYU at second. I think, technically for me, I think I would actually probably put Utah in third only because of Arizona's schedule. I think that Arizona has a lot of these pieces. I just don't know if they can quite put all those pieces together into one fluid motion, along with the way that their schedule is.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're quite there yet.
Yeah.
But obviously they're a good team. But yeah, I think what we're really going to see is when we get into the Holy War, we get BYU, we get Utah.
Yes.
That's going to be a huge determination, I think, of kind of who is like that second team, really. Yes. But yeah, my pick is obviously Texas Tech and then BYU.
Absolutely. And the most hot button conference of all time, the SEC. Now, I think this is still a 2-horse race, I think. And I feel like in the SEC, there are 2 teams that are pretty much going to end up in Atlanta. And I think there's 4+ teams chasing those 2.
Yep.
Let's all be honest here. The SEC still runs through Athens. It still runs through the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yes.
That is undisputed. I do think they will get back to the SEC championship. They've been there every year under Kirby Smart, aside from the COVID year when everything was weird.
Yep.
But I think their opponent will be Texas. I think this is the year that Texas breaks through.
Okay.
I think this is the year that I don't necessarily have Texas winning at all. I don't even think I have them beating Georgia in the SEC championship. But Texas, Arch has had a couple years now to get settled in. Texas has rebuilt, reloaded. They are ready. And frankly, Sark needs to do something now.
Yes.
Texas fans are hungry. They've been promised we're going to be up at the top winning championships for years now. And it hasn't come. Now, I think they get to that SEC championship. Win or lose, I think they will have enough to get to that college football playoff and be in there, whoever takes that top spot. After that, I think you're looking at, I personally am a big fan of OU, Oklahoma. I think they could be a team that could be in there. Honestly, John Mateer was a Heisman frontrunner last year before he got injured. I think we could see great things from him if that offense settles in a little bit. That defense at OU we know is electric. It has been great every year under Venables. Second, I think LSU can get there. Lane Kiffin knows how to win, knows how to score a lot of points. That is what he is bred for. That's what LSU is bred for. Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss obviously is going to be another team that's up there.
Yep.
I think if I had to do one more, but I don't think they will get there, and we'll talk about them a little bit later as well, is Alabama.
Yep.
You can never count Alabama out, but I don't think they're going to get there this year. I just think they have enough. They don't have enough pieces ready to go yet for that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that Georgia and Texas are probably your top two. I don't. It's hard because obviously, like, I'm with you on the fact of, like, I don't know if Alabama's going to quite be there yet.
Right.
But at the same time, like, it's Alabama.
Right.
I mean, you never know with them. Like, so I could very easily see them.
I mean, we saw what these guys did to them in the Rose Bowl. I'm just saying, you never know.
I could see Alabama making it back. I really could. Will they? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I love Ole Miss, but I'm not sure if they're going to get there either. I don't really know. Oklahoma, they're a great team. I think one thing, kind of looking at potential to get into the playoff, I think when we start looking at the Michigan versus Oklahoma matchup in week 2, that is going to be by far, like that right there is, like, if you're looking, like, at the season kind of just, game by game, like that's the biggest game for them to start the season off.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, because to me, the winner of that, whether it's Michigan or whether it's Oklahoma, that's kind of the team that, like, if there were to be some sort of like a 3-way tie of some sort to get into the playoff, that team would have a chance to get in over the other.
Was one of those strength of record, strength of schedule games that's really going to impact the committee's decision when we get to that point of, hey, we've got a spot left for a 10-2 team. We've got a spot left for maybe even a 9-3 team.
9-3, yeah.
Who's going to take that spot? Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. And then obviously, I mean, I do kind of like Texas A&M. I just don't know if they're going to have everything together. Like, they're always kind of there, like, chipping away. They've had their highs, they've had their lows. Are they going to be able to do enough this year? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, I think that if anything, Texas A&M can kind of play spoiler a little bit. Yeah. I think they can, if there's, an LSU or an Ole Miss or somebody, maybe that is, if we get this win, either they're guaranteed for the playoff, or maybe it's just like, we're pretty set on our position, but, this will just kind of help boost us or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas A&M could play spoiler.
They could.
Very, very easily.
Absolutely. I feel like Texas A&M's role here, like you said, is going to be spoiler, because I think that's a team that feels like an 8-4 ceiling, but to get to that point, they've got to steal some.
Yes.
They've got to steal 1 or 2 games here.
Yep.